Imagine having an idea, just an idea, but it's so powerful, so magnetic. It pulls you towards someone like, say, Thomas Edison. You show up looking like, well, maybe not your best.
Like a tramp, as the source says.
Exactly, like a tramp. But inside, you've got the mindset of a king. That was Edwin C. He had this consuming obsession, a real burning desire to work with Edison.
And that's really what we're diving into today, isn't it? That very first step. How does a simple wish, something you just kind of want, transform into this incredibly powerful force?
Right. This deep dive is all about understanding that burning desire. We're looking at sources that, don't just define it, but give us clues about how to actually cultivate it ourselves.
Because it's made very clear just wanting something. That's not the same thing at all. It's miles away from this intense, focused, definite obsession we're talking about.
Yeah, the kind of obsession that fuels action, that makes you persist even when things get tough. So, okay, let's unpack that. What really makes this true desire different from just, hoping for something?
Well, the source material draws a really sharp line. It contrasts wishing, which is passive, right, with this keen, pulsating, definite thing, true desire.
Pulsating, I like that. It sounds active.
It is. Think about Barnes again. Wanting to work with Edison wasn't some new idea he just cooked up. It had been brewing for a long time. It was dominating his thoughts.
So it started maybe as a wish, but he nurtured it.
Yeah.
Focused on it until it became huge.
Exactly. By the time he actually got on that freight train to Orange, New Jersey, it wasn't a wish anymore. It was, well, an obsession, a burning desire.
That intensity, it really makes you stop and think, doesn't it?
Yeah.
For you listening, what is it that you really want? Like deep down, what goal gives you that kind of feeling?
And that reflection, that's step one, really.
Yeah.
Identifying it. Now, look at how Barnes actually did it. He didn't storm in demanding to be Edison's partner on day one.
No, he played the long game. He took whatever work he could get, right? Even if it was basic stuff.
Menial work, yeah. But he saw it purely as a means to an end, a foot in the door. He knew where he wanted to end up.
And this is the bit that always gets me. 5 years. 5 years he worked there, doing odds and ends with seemingly zero progress towards his actual goal.
But here's the key in his own mind. He never wavered. From that very first day, he saw himself as Edison's partner. That conviction, it's immense.
That internal reality was stronger than the external one. Amazing.
Totally. And the source uses this really vivid phrase. He burned all bridges behind him.
Wow. No going back.
Exactly. Complete commitment, no safety net. Which, prompts the question for anyone listening. If you have a big goal, what are your bridges? What might you need to metaphorically burn to get that level of focus?
That's a heavy question.
Yeah.
And it reminds me of that other story, the warrior facing impossible odds.
Oh, yeah, the burning the ship story. It's a perfect parallel to Barnes's mindset. This general facing a much bigger army.
What did he do?
He lands his troops, unloads everything they need, and then orders them to burn the ships they arrived on.
No way. So they were stranded.
Pretty much. He basically told them, look, we either win this thing or we die here. There's no going back. Imagine the feeling that created.
Talk about pressure.
Yeah.
But also clarity.
Absolute clarity. It created that burning desire to win because suddenly winning wasn't just preferable, it was the only option.
Survival depended on it.
So for you listening again, what would that look like? You're burning the ship's moment. What action could you take that makes turning back just not an option anymore?
It's about creating that necessity, isn't it? And this links directly to another idea in the source.
Yeah.
Definiteness of purpose. We see this with Marshall Field after the Great Chicago Fire.
Right. Chicago's burning down, total chaos. Most business owners are probably thinking, okay, time to cut losses, maybe move somewhere else.
Understandably, that seemed like the easy, logical path. But Field, he stood there, looking at the smoldering ruins of his store, and basically said,
we're rebuilding, right here, bigger and better.
Right.
Exactly. He declared, gentlemen, on that very spot, I will rebuild the world's greatest store, no matter how many times it may burn down. That's definiteness of purpose. That's burning desire in action.
And the source really hammers this point home, doesn't it?
Yeah.
That this kind of unwavering resolve is often the difference maker. It's why Barnes succeeded where maybe others in Edison's own company didn't quite reach that level.
It all circles back to the intensity, the definiteness of that desire. But it's not just about inspiration. The source material gets very practical. It gives us 6 specific steps.
Okay, good, because desire is great, but how do you actually, channel it? Let's hear the steps.
All right, step 1. Fix in your mind the exact amount of money you desire, or really the exact thing you desire. Be specific, not just, I want more money or I want success. Get precise. There's a psychological power to that, which the source delves into.
Okay, exactness. Got it. What's step 2?
Determine exactly what you intend to give in return for what you desire. There's no such thing as something for nothing, right? What's the value exchange?
Makes sense. A fair trade. Number 3.
Establish a definite date, a deadline. When, specifically, do you intend to have this thing you desire? This creates urgency, stops it from being someday.
Right. Puts a time frame on it. Okay, 4.
Create a definite plan to carry out your desire. And this is important to begin at once. Whether you feel ready or not, start executing that plan.
Don't wait for perfect conditions.
Yeah.
Just start. Okay, 5.
Write it all down. A clear, concise statement. The exact amount or thing, the time limit, what you'll give in return, and the plan you've created. Get it on paper.
Makes it tangible, concrete. And the last one, step 6.
Read your written statement aloud twice a day, once just before bed and once right after waking up. And here's the crucial part. As you read it, you have to see, feel, and believe yourself already in possession of it.
So it's not just reading words. It's an active visualization and an emotional connection.
Exactly. That feeling part is vital. You're trying to impress this desire onto your subconscious mind. The source calls this process autosuggestion, and having that burning desire makes this step much more potent, much more believable to yourself.
You're essentially training your brain to accept this future reality, building that success consciousness.
Precisely. Or money consciousness, if wealth is the goal. Your mind becomes saturated with the desire and the expectation of achieving it.
And these steps, they didn't just come out of thin air, right? There's a story behind them.
Absolutely. They were shared by Andrew Carnegie, someone who started with very little a laborer and built an immense fortune. He attributed his success to these principles.
And Edison himself agreed.
Yes, Thomas Edison endorsed these steps. He saw their value not just for making money, but for achieving any definite goal, any major aim in life.
So it's less about just grinding away, working harder in the traditional sense.
And more about imagination, focus, and understanding how to, well, direct your mental forces using these principles.
It kind of reframes success. The source says all great fortunes, all big achievements start with dreaming, hoping, wishing, desiring, and then planning.
The planning is key,
Yeah.
but that desire has to be there first, and it needs a partner.
Which is?
Belief. Genuine belief. The source is really clear.
Yeah.
You need that white heat of desire combined with a solid belief that you can attain it.
Not just hoping, but knowing.
Yes. Think about great leaders, visionaries throughout history. They were dreamers first. They saw things in their mind's eye long before anyone else did.
Like the quote says, if you do not see great riches in your imagination, you will never see them in your bank balance. You have to visualize it first.
You absolutely do. And interestingly, the source argues that right now, this current era, it's actually a fantastic time for practical dreamers.
Really? Why now specifically?
Because the world has shifted, there's a huge demand for new ideas, new ways of doing things, new leadership, new inventions. Things are changing fast.
So people with that definiteness of purpose and that burning desire, they're the ones who can really thrive in this changed world.
They're perfectly positioned. They're the ones who can see the opportunities and have the drive to make them real. The source calls them the pattern makers of civilization.
Pattern makers. I like that. They shape the future.
They do. They tap into these intangible forces, these possibilities, and turn them into concrete realities. But it requires a certain mindset.
Like what?
Tolerance, an open mind, being afraid of new ideas, dismissing things just because they're different. That's a recipe for staying stuck.
So embrace the new, even if it seems a bit out there at first.
Yeah.
Like Columbus or Copernicus. People probably thought they were crazy.
Oh, absolutely. History's full of examples. But, as the source puts it so bluntly, success requires no apologies. Failure permits no alibis.
Oof. No excuses.
Pretty much, it's about taking ownership. Pursue your dream, your belief. Don't worry about temporary setbacks or what other people think, because every failure
brings with it the seed of an equivalent success.
Yeah, I remember that line. It suggests failures aren't endings, just detours with lessons. Exactly. Look at the examples given. Ford, Edison again, with his thousands of failed experiments.
10,000, wasn't it? For the light bulb.
Something like that. Lincoln, the Wright brothers, Marconi.
Marconi's story is wild. People literally thought he was insane, trying to send messages through thin air. They apparently had him temporarily detained for psychological observation.
It shows the kind of resistance you can face when your dream is truly groundbreaking. but their desire was stronger than the doubt.
That desire is the seed. I love that quote. The greatest achievement was at first, and for a time, a dream. The oak sleeps in the acorn. Dreams are the seedlings of realities.
Beautifully put, isn't it? It urges you, the listener, to awake, arise, and assert yourself as a dreamer. There's so much opportunity now, but it starts with that burning desire to be and to do.
Even huge, seemingly impossible projects, like the Tennessee Valley Authority mentioned in the source, started as someone's mad dream.
Precisely. And look, the source acknowledges that you might have faced disappointments, setbacks, failures. We all do.
Yeah, life happens.
But those experiences aren't wasted. They temper you, like forging steel. Many successful people had incredibly difficult beginnings. Sometimes a crisis is the very thing that sparks the transformation.
That's a hopeful way to look at setbacks, turning adversity into fuel.
Exactly. Transmuting it. Think about John Bunyan writing Pilgrim's Progress in prison. O. Henry discovering his talent while incarcerated. Dickens' tough childhood fueling his writing. Helen Keller's
story is just astounding, overcoming deafness and blindness.
It proves, doesn't it, that no one ever is defeated until defeat has been accepted as a reality. Also Burns, Booker T. Washington, Beethoven dealing with deafness, Milton with blindness. They channeled hardship into creation.
So the key is taking those strong emotions, maybe even negative ones, and redirecting them into a constructive dream rather than letting them fester.
That's the essence of it. Which brings us back to belief. To truly achieve something, you have to be ready to receive it. And readiness means belief, not just wishing, real belief.
And belief thrives in an open mind, right? Closed-mindedness shuts it down.
Absolutely. It's like that poem the source quotes, My Wage, by Jesse Rittenhouse. The line that sticks is about bargaining with life for a penny and life paying no more.
Because that's all you ask for.
Exactly. For life is a just employer. He gives you what you ask. It's a powerful nudge to aim high, to ask boldly. Because what you truly desire and believe you can achieve, that's what life tends to give you.
Aim high. Ask boldly.
Yeah.
I like that.
And, to really illustrate just how powerful this combination of desire and belief can be, the source shares an incredibly personal story.
This is the one about the author's own son, isn't it?
Yes. Born without any physical sign of years. The doctors gave a devastating prognosis, likely deaf and mute for life.
Just unimaginable news for a parent.
Absolutely crushing. But in that moment, the author made an immediate silent decision, a vow, really, that his son would hear, his son would speak. It wasn't logical. It wasn't based on medical evidence.
It's just pure desire.
An intense, burning desire. He quotes Emerson. We need only obey. There is guidance for each of us, and by lowly listening, we shall hear the right word. For him, that right word, that guidance, was desire.
So he didn't just accept the verdict. He decided on a different reality.
He did. And he set about actively trying to instill that same burning desire to hear in his son's mind. He looked for any tiny sign, and eventually noticed the boy seemed to have a slight response to loud sounds. That tiny flicker became his focus.
Hope.
Huge hope. Then came the observation with the Victrola, the record player. The boy would bite the edge of the cabinet while it played.
Why?
He didn't know why, not consciously, but he was instinctively using bone conduction, sound vibrations traveling through his teeth and skull to his inner ear.
Wow. So his body was finding a way.
It seems so. Then they discovered if they spoke with their lips touching the bone behind where his ear should be the mastoid bone, he could hear them quite clearly.
Amazing. So they found a pathway.
Yes. And the father used this. Bedtime stories became crucial. Stories designed specifically to build self-reliance, imagination, and crucially, that desire to hear normally. He even told one story where he framed the boy's lack of ears as an asset, a future advantage.
Even though he had no idea how it could be an asset.
None at all. It was pure desire backed by faith, overriding logic. He just kept planting that seed, selling his son on the idea that this difference made him special, gave him an edge over his older brother somehow.
That positive framing must have been so important for the boy's self-image.
Immensely. The source notes the son grew up with little to no self-consciousness about his condition. His hearing gradually improved, maybe through constant effort and focus. And then there's that newspaper story.
Oh yeah, tell us that one.
The boy decided he wanted to sell newspapers. His mother was worried, didn't want him to. But he didn't argue or plead. He just waited until she was busy, snuck out, borrowed the money for the papers, sold them all, paid back the loan, and kept the profit.
Took initiative. Didn't wait for permission.
Total self-reliance. His older brother apparently would have whined and complained until someone gave him the money. The source uses this to highlight the difference that desire and self-belief made. The author learned from his own son that, quote, disabilities can be converted into stepping stones unless they are accepted as obstacles and used as alibis.
Powerful lesson.
Yeah.
So what happened with his hearing long term?
He went through school, college, still without what we'd consider normal hearing. Then, in his final week of college, a breakthrough. A new type of electrical hearing device was developed. He tried it, and for the first time in his life, he could hear almost perfectly, naturally, like flipping a switch. The source describes it as entering a changed world.
I can only imagine. What did he do?
First thing, he rushed to a phone, something he'd previously avoided because he couldn't hear well enough, and called his mother. Heard her voice clearly for the first time ever over the phone.
Oh, wow. That must have been incredibly emotional.
Had to be. But the story, again, doesn't stop there. Regaining his hearing was amazing, but the principle demands converting that desire, that achievement, into something more, an equivalent asset.
How did he do that?
He wrote a passionate letter to the hearing aid company. And reading it over, he had a flash of insight, a hunch, an idea. He realized his own story, his journey, could inspire and help millions of other hard of hearing people.
Using his experience to serve others.
Exactly. He decided right then to dedicate his life to this cause. He researched the company's marketing, created a 2-year plan outlining how he could contribute, presented it, and got hired.
Incredible. So his disability literally became his career path.
Yes. The author later attended a class run by the company teaching deaf people to hear and speak using methods very similar to the ones he'd intuitively used with his son years before. He even had a specialist examine his son, Dr. Irving Voorhees, who was apparently stunned. He said, theoretically, the boy should not be able to hear at all.
But he could, because of our...
Desire mixed with faith. The source suggests these forces acted like a bridge builder, creating pathways maybe science didn't fully understand. It hammers home. Nothing is impossible to the person who backs desire with enduring faith.
That desire finds a way to manifest. And that little white lie the father told him about his condition being an asset.
It became true in the most unexpected way, which leads to that profound statement. Verily, there is nothing, right or wrong, that belief plus burning desire cannot make real.
It's almost scary, the potential power we have through our thoughts and desires.
It is profound, and the source gives other quick examples. Madame Schumann-Heink, the opera singer, initially rejected harshly.
Yeah, the director told her to give up, basically.
Right.
Said she had no future.
But her desire to sing was stronger. She became a world-renowned star, and the story of the sick business associate given weeks to live, who just refused to accept it because he had unfinished business, and recovered.
Defying the odds through sheer will, through desire.
Exactly. The doctor himself apparently said the man's own determination saved him more than any medical treatment.
So wrapping this part up, this deep dive really emphasizes that the starting point, step one, is that intense, definite, burning desire backed up by unwavering faith.
That's the foundation. Everything else builds on that. And for anyone listening, especially if you've faced tough times, economic struggles, whatever, the message is clear. All achievement, big or small, starts with wanting something definite, wanting it with that burning intensity.
Nature itself seems to favor strong desire, doesn't it?
Yeah.
But it imbues it with a special kind of power.
The source calls it mental chemistry, a state where impossible doesn't register, failure isn't an option. And that crucial second step, faith, it says, can be induced, cultivated, through autosuggestion.
Faith is a state of mind which may be induced by autosuggestion.
That's the bridge to the next part of the puzzle.
Exactly. But it all begins with desire.
So the core message today, a definite burning desire isn't just wishing, it's a deep, unwavering commitment, the absolute foundation. Take some time to really think about that for yourself. What you desire with that kind of intensity, what's the one thing, above all else? How can you cultivate that fire?
The stories we've talked about, Barnes, the warrior, Field, the author's son, they show this isn't just theory. It plays out in real lives in incredibly diverse ways.
It really does.
Which leaves us with a final thought, something to ponder. If a desire that strong mixed with faith can seemingly influence even physical healing, defy medical predictions, what other barriers in our lives, barriers we think are solid and real, might actually be more permeable than we imagine if only we applied the full force of our focused desire? What else could we potentially overcome?